Hello, I'm Laura, and I figured it's about time I do my kind of like my about me, how I got to the place where I needed Spravato treatments, which is doing the Spravato treatments for resistant depression and OCD. First of all, I was born in Chicago Heights, Illinois, way back in 1973, and I was not wanted by my mom. Not really sure 100% why. Sorry, coffee and collagen. But I do have some court documents that I'll read a little bit from. I've always been had issues with depression and just being weird, immature, blah blah blah, and people will make fun of you because you're different, but I haven't let that stop me, but it's not been always that easy either. So I'll just kind of start with I'm just going to read a little bit. There's so many things that happened that got me to this point, but this will just start out with: the patient's mother went to work when the patient was 5 years old, and the patient stayed with her maternal grandmother. The patient's mother reportedly would take frustrations with the patient's father out on the patient with loud arguments common between the parents. The patient's mother would reportedly tell the patient that she was ugly and generally would direct derogatory comments towards her to such an extent that the neighbors voiced concerns about this to the father. He would then confront the patient's mother, but she would deny the negative reports. Eventually, the patient began asking her father about her mother's critical and derogatory comments, which were directed at her. Between kindergarten and first grade, the family moved to the Chicago suburbs and out of the crowded apartment complex. They moved into a house with a yard, and the patient was very happy and excited about the move. Her father worked fewer hours, thereafter, and was involved in coaching the patient's softball team for 3 years. The patient's mother has since made claims that the patient was in trouble during 5th grade for having hit a teacher with a chair, but the father's stance: he heard no reports of such behavior at the time, and questions if his ex-wife in fact fabricated such stories. During the patient's 6th grade year, the patient's marriage deteriorated, or the parents' marriage deteriorated significantly, with the mother staying out all night, often apparently having affairs. The father claims the patient wanted her parents to separate and feels she wanted him all to herself. After the father moved out, the patient's mother subsequently kicked the patient out, and I was only 13 years old. Stating that she could not get along. The father feels the patient's mother was not around much and provided very little supervision. Reportedly, the patient's older sister had a lot of parties when the mother was gone, after staying 2 weeks with a girl who had been her friend since 1st grade, who was having problems herself, including using drugs and engaging in negative behaviors. I was only 13 during all this. The patient went to live with the father, who was living with the woman he would eventually marry, which it doesn't state that my dad ended up marrying this woman 3 days after the divorce was final, which is crazy. Okay, she resented her father's mate prior to the marriage. The patient's negative behaviors included she was sneaking out at night, using drugs, and being sexually active. Although the father and stepmother claims they were not aware to the extent of her negative behaviors at that time. In May of 1987, the patient moved to Arkansas to live with her maternal grandparents after telling her stepmother that she did not want to go to school and that she had a drug problem. Prior to the move, she was placed in Charter Barkley Hospital for 2 months, and then after discharged, talked her father into allowing her to move to Arkansas. Her father agreed due to having confidence in the maternal grandmother. Through the summer of 1987, the patient states she did well, focusing her activities on her grandmother and participating in community theater. Once back in school, the patient focused on negative peer involvement. The father and his wife visited the patient, and the patient visited them in Illinois several times, but their visits did not go well due to the patient wanting to spend time with her negative peers. The patient resented her older sister for not keeping in touch in much as she felt she should after emancipating, and resented her for getting married. Due to seeing that further limiting the sister's attention, she would tease and be playful with her brother, but worried that he would not listen to her concerns. She did not want him using drugs. That was just a little bit. So as you can see, I never got the building blocks that I needed for life. That was just a little bit. Like I said, one page was so many pages. My mom tried to murder me, and I'm doing the best I can in life. And I know that for a long time, I just was like, I'm okay. They say fake it till you make it. Well, in certain situations, you cannot fake it till you make it.